All right, welcome to today's challenge. This challenge is for the laser cutter. It is the glider challenge. Now, some of you may be wondering, what's a glider? Well, here's a glider. This is one. This is a foam glider. We actually purchased this from Amazon. And if you look at it, look how puny it is, right? So have you ever ordered something from Amazon and it didn't show up the way you thought? That's basically what happened here. So instead of continuing to pay someone else to make a glider, we're going to create our own. And we're going to make one that outperforms, that flies better, flies further, and flies longer than what we can purchase on Amazon. So that's our challenge for today, is to build a better glider. So this is what we got from Amazon. I also ordered this one, and look how small it is. Wah, wah, wah. So your job today is to use the tools we have. We're going to use Tinkercad. We're going to use some Google Drawing a little bit. And then we're going to use our laser cutter to custom cut, custom create our own glider. Now this is the first one my daughter made for me. It's broke already. But you can see this is a foam glider, much bigger than what we ordered on Amazon. It flies further, it flies longer, and flies faster. It's way better, way cooler. So this is what we're going to do. This is our challenge, to make our own foam glider using our equipment right here at school. So first thing we want to do is we want to work through the engineering design process, and that first step is design. So my recommendation for a design phase of this project is to just search, get some inspiration. Now you can see here I went to Google and I simply just went to images and typed in airplane, okay? And so for this project, we're going to be thinking two-dimensional, so we're going to be thinking flat surfaces. So if you go back to this glider, you can see you're going to have to design the side view of the plane and the top view of the wings, okay? So what we want to do is find an airplane that has a side view. That one's pretty good there. A side view airplane. And you can do cool airplanes. You can do jets. I just punched in airplane. So I like this one here. It's got a good side view, and I'm going to copy, right click and copy, and then you can see I'm going to paste it here. Now I've already done this to speed this video up, but then once we paste it into Google Drawing, you don't have to do this. You can print it off, or you can just mentally know what shapes you need. I'm going to use the tool, the scribble tool, which over here, when you open Google Drawings, and you can literally just Google Drawings and it'll pop up. When you open it, it'll start like this. In order to find the scribble function, you'll hit the change from line to scribble. And if you're on a Chromebook, you can actually use your finger to draw the shapes that you see. And you can see that I identified a large rectangle and 1, 2, 3 triangles. So that's really my design phase. I know that once I open up Tinkercad, I'm going to need to create a rectangle and at least 3 triangles. I'm going to make a cockpit, so I'll probably go ahead. Let me go scribble here. Let me scribble. I'm going to add a little bubble here, like a circle, to make kind of like a cockpit. So that's what my plane's going to be. It's going to be rectangle, 3 triangles, and 1 circle or oval for my cockpit. So that's the design phase of this project. You can pause it here and you can do this part, or you can keep on moving with me. I'm going to keep moving. Part 2 is going to be the build. We're going to build virtually today, and we're going to use the program Tinkercad. So you're going to log in using your @staff or your 00 numbers into Tinkercad, and you should have an account already. Some of you already have a lot of projects on here. Some of you are going to watch this video and be like, I can do this way better than him, and that's fine. Again, this is one way to do it. You can do this multiple ways. So again, I'm going to use the design I've already created. I'm going to use this design to build in here, and I'm going to start with the rectangle. Let's create the rectangle, the main body of my airplane. I'm going to start by using the red box, drag it over. I'm just going to place it on this blue work plane. Okay. The blue work plane, I'm going to stretch this out to make it look more like an airplane. Now everything is going to be measured in millimeters. You can see this is 134 millimeters, which is 13.4 centimeters, and it is 28 millimeters wide, which is 2.8 centimeters. I'm going to go ahead and make it even numbers. And again, I can move using the squares, right? Or I can just punch it in. So let's just make it 120. So that's 12 centimeters. You can always, I know you guys are, some of you are watching this are teachers. So some of you watching this as teachers, you're thinking, okay, there's my math lessons. I can do this for math. I can use math in here. Thickness wise, again, you just make it as thick as you want. Now there is a constraint. Something that's going to stop you is your plane has to fit on this workspace. So if you make a plane too big, If you make your plane too big, you're not going to have room for your wings. So your wings have to fit on here too. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to make mine this big. It looks good. And now I want to add more shapes. Okay. Let's go to, I'm gonna try to make a triangle here for the front nose. So I'm gonna use this roof tool or the wedge. I'm gonna use the roof. Boom. Okay. Now I'm gonna point out a couple things. Let me zoom in here. When you guys are working on Tinkercad, you're typically working in 3 dimensions, right? If you can look at this, you can tilt your workspace over here with this cube, tilt. You can see you're working in 3 dimensions. Now, when you send this to the laser cutter is not going to build this 3-dimensionally. It's going to cut. So the analogy I want you to think of is think about making sugar cookies. And if you've ever used a cookie cutter, that's basically what you're doing here. You're making a cookie cutter shape airplane, or an airplane shaped like a cookie cutter, or a cookie cutter shaped airplane. I think I said it right the first time. And so now I'm pointing this out for a reason. If this is our cookie cutter and the blue mat is our cookie dough, what shape did I just make? I made a square. I did not make a triangle. So what do I have to do in order to make a square out of this roof piece or this roof tool? I'm going to have to turn it, right? I'm going to have to pivot it, rotate it. Rotate is a good math word. Rotate, tilt, 90 degrees. I'm going to have to tilt it. And there's more math right there, 90 degrees. So right now, if I leave this shape as is, I get a square. If I tilt it, if I just tip it over, think of it that way. Maybe if I just tip it over, right? And you can do this 2 ways, by clicking on it. That's one way. Or undo, hit the undo button. Or the easy way I like to do it is you click on the arrows and then you type 90 degrees. And that guarantees you made it 90 degrees and it's not angled off, a little wonky. And again, there's more math. You're looking at degrees. Kids need to learn 90 degrees is going to go straight back. So there's my 90 degrees, all right? Now I have sorta, and again, anytime I want to go back to that top view, I come over here to my cube, hit top view, and I can spin it around to get the view I like. Okay, you can zoom in and zoom out by scrolling. If you're on a Chromebook, you can zoom in and zoom out with 2 fingers. So you'll use 2 fingers on your screen and move it in and out. You can also move the entire workspace with 2 fingers. Or if you use 1 finger on a Chromebook, you can tilt and you can rotate with 1 finger. So tilt and rotate with 1 finger, 2 fingers to move your workspace, zoom in, and to move it up and down. If you're on a laptop like me, you just scroll in, scroll out. You can also use these in and out buttons to move in and out. But then you can move your workspace like this as well. So I kind of like a Chromebook better, to be honest with you, at least for this purpose. So here we go. There's my nose. Now that doesn't look like a very good nose, so I'm going to go ahead and rotate it. And again, you should be working along with me. You shouldn't just sit and watch, because you're gonna do something maybe a little different, which is cool. Now here's something that's critical. So if you're following along with me, I want you to pay attention here. This is critical. Let me move. Okay, so for this airplane, I'm gonna move it down so you can see it well. Right now, if I zoom in and tilt up, I have 2 shapes that are not the same size. One actually is sticking out the bottom, right? My triangle is sticking out the bottom. I'm gonna fix that. I want everything, for the planning purposes, I want everything to be flush with my work plane. So I'm gonna bring it up. You can see when I hit this triangle here, this pyramid here, I'm -5. I want it to be 0. So I can either type 0 there, or I can grab the pyramid here, click on it, and drag it up. And you can see I went from -5. I'm gonna move it up to 0. Boom. Now that's at 0. Now the challenge for the laser cutters, I gotta make sure that my shapes are the same height. So I'm going to click on, I want everything to be the same height. It's 20 millimeters. My red rectangle is 20 millimeters. How tall is my green triangle? It's also 20. A lot of times it's not. That's why I'm really proud of myself. So let's say it's not. It's too big. Let me show you what happens if it's not the same size. If this is not the same size, the laser cutter will cut it off. It'll cut that line, even if you group them. I'll show you how to group later. Even if you group them, if they're not the same height, the laser will read that as a line and it'll cut it off. And I learned from experience. So again, Just make sure all your shapes are the same height, and you do that by that middle square. I'm 27, so again, I can either grab it and drag it, or I can just type in 20 millimeters. Now you can see both my rectangle, my red rectangle, and my green triangle are the same height, and they kind of goes back and forth between red and green there because they're the same. Now let's make it look cool. I'm gonna drag this out, maybe come there a little bit, maybe give it a little tilt action. If your internet's slow, it will drive you nuts because it won't tilt smooth. It'll kind of be wonky a little bit. So there, that's good enough. We're not trying to be perfect here. And now I got my nose, okay? Next piece I want to do is my back fin. Nope, hit the wrong button. I want to go top. Sorry, I'm playing with the views. Okay, anytime you don't like your view, just come over here to the box and just tap top, and you'll just have that nice top view. Okay, so now I got my nose, I got the body. Let's make a tail. I'm going to use the wedge. Now, you guys don't have to use the wedge, and I can show you a cheat, and some of you are like, why didn't you show this to begin with? If you just want to draw your shape, you can just draw your airplane. You can just grab the scribble tool. That's also another option. You can grab the scribble tool, bring it over, and you literally just draw it. Now, the easiest way to do it is to use draw shape. If I draw right now, watch what happens. I'll draw, let's say I draw a tail for my airplane. This is no good. This is no good because you're going to have a giant hole in my tail. The laser cutter will cut both black lines. It'll cut the outside and the inside out. So in order to fix that, you want to draw a shape. So you can either just start by clicking that draw shape button. My daughter likes to draw it with a pencil and then fill it in with the shape. So she does this. She goes around, which I think is, there's no need for 2 steps, but you want to draw a shape, fill the whole thing in so that there's no holes. There we go. And then there's also, so I'm done. So there's 2 ways right there to get a triangle. This one or even this one. But again, you got to tilt this. And that's why sometimes it's a pain. I don't want to tilt, right? It's just one more step. So if you don't want to do one more step and you don't mind your airplane looking kind of wonky, feel free to go ahead and just use the wedge. That's what I'm going to do. And again, you can either grab and rotate or just type in 90. Boom, now it's 90. And then that's the way I want it to look. Okay. So my triangles, actually my tail is facing the wrong direction. Easy to fix. I can either click on it and use this button up here. That's a mirror button. Or even easier, just grab a corner and flip it. So I like a nice big tail back there. Boom. I'm not going to use that. And then the last I'm going to add is a cockpit. Right about there. Make it a little bigger. And then just one last check. I want to make sure all my shapes are the same height. And you can see right here, my blue tail, my blue triangle, and my red rectangle are the same height because you can see they're faded in right there. That means they're the same height, but let me double check. 20, yep, my triangle's 20 millimeters. Let's see my circle, my sphere here is 20 millimeters. My rectangle is 20 millimeters and my triangle is 20. So that's perfect. The laser cutter is going to like this and it's going to work. Now, last thing I want to do is go ahead and group everything together. I'm going to click, drag, highlight everything, and then use this group button. You can also hit Control G. It'll group everything there for me, and now I have my airplane. Once it's all grouped, I can move the whole thing together, and I'm actually going to make my airplane as big as possible. There it is. I like it. It looks good. Looks kind of cool. Now, last thing I need to do is make some wings, and I got plenty of room for my wings. I'm going to come down here, and I've never done a glider with the round curved wings, so that's what I'm going to do today. But again, if I bring it over here, and if I send this to the laser cutter, what shape am I cutting out? I'm cutting out a triangle or a square again, right? So again, I just have to pivot it. I got to turn it, got to rotate it. So I want the edge, I want that edge on the blue mat, right? So again, I'm just going to click on that, tilt it 90 degrees. Now, let's go top view. Now I have a wing. Now I have what I want. I'm going to turn it. Again, type in 90. Okay. Oops. I want it to look that way. And then make it as big as you want. So you can stop here if you want and call it a day. If you do that, there is one last step you need to do. I have a body to my glider. I have a wing to my glider. If you want to make a second wing, you can make 2 wings. The one last critical thing, anything you want to cut, I want to go back to my cookie dough analogy. Anything you want to cut on the laser cutter has to cut through your work plane. So if you look at this, the wing portion, you can see it's on top of my work plane and it's actually underneath too. That's what you have to have. If your shapes are floating in space like this, and again, all I did was grab that pyramid up there. If your shapes are up in space like this, it's not going to cut, okay? The laser cutter will read a blank file and you'll wonder what happened. You can see it's 35 millimeters above my material. I need it to cut through my material just like a cookie cutter. Remember that analogy? So I like to do -5 at least, -3, -5. It doesn't matter just as long as your material or your cookie cutter cuts through your material. So my wing is good. Now let's look at my airplane. The body of my airplane, if I sent this to the laser cutter, it would not show up, okay? Because it was at 0. I need it to go at least, I like to do -5. Perfect. Now, if I send this to the laser cutter, both my airplane and my wing will cut. Last thing I want to do, and you guys don't have to do this, I can cut this for you, I can add this at the laser cutter, is I'm going to add a hole for my wings. And that's simple to do. All I just need to do is add a rectangle in the middle. And again, this is going to be a cutout shape. So this box up here, the first basic shape is a cutout. I need to make it the same size as my wing or bigger. I'm going to make it bigger. I'll make it about that big. So I just want to make sure it's at least as big as my wing. Now here's the thing. We're going to be using foam board. So the thickness of my cut needs to be at least this thick, and this is at least 1 centimeter, I'd say, maybe 1 centimeter. If that's wrong, I'll correct it in our meeting. So it needs to be as long as your wing, but then thickness-wise, it needs to be, whoops, I'm going the wrong way. It needs to be at least 10 millimeters. 10 millimeters. The other most important thing, if you're going to try this cut, if not, again, I can cut it. I can add this cut at the laser cutter. The laser cutter lets me add cuts as we go. You want to make sure this block is thicker than, at least cuts through your whole material. So I'm going to make it taller, right? Because remember my airplane was 20 millimeters. So I'm going to make this cutout 30, so it's bigger. And then I'm going to drop it in and make it sure it goes all the way through. Cool. That's it. Now you can see I made it longer. There's the direct top view. I just click this button here. You click it twice. It goes back and forth from 3D view to flat view, and that's really how you want to work. You can see I've made it bigger than my wing. So if I put my wing in there, and I like that, that's kind of cool because I can move my wing to the back and to the front. I'm actually going to make this wing a little bigger. There you go. So you guys have fun playing with this. The last thing you need to do once you've made your cut, if you want to, once you've dropped your cookie cutter through the cookie dough, is to export. You're just going to hit the export button, and then we're not 3D printing this, we're laser cutting it. So just hit SVG, and then it'll download. And then once it's downloaded, just email it to me or place it in your Google Drive and share it with me within Google. Either way, it'll work, okay? Just as long as you've exported it as an SVG. And then once it's there, join me in the laser cutter and I'll start cutting and we'll start throwing gliders and we'll make sure the test is to make a better glider. And if you beat this glider, you have you have conquered the challenge. So good luck, guys. I hope this video wasn't too long. I hope it helped you, and I hope you have an awesome glider in the end. Thanks for watching.